Beautiful. All right, y'all. Awesome. All right. Well, I thank you all for joining us today. I'm really excited to introduce this lovely panel to you all in just a moment. But before I do that, just want to start off by saying who I am, right? Because that's important. So my name is Lauren Paler, and I am the owner and co-founder of Focus on Health. It is an organization that caters and advocates for the health and wellness of food and beverage individuals. And our entire initiative for February, Fill in the Gaps, focuses on educational wellness and mental wellness in many ways, because mental wellness is everything. We're really taking a couple of steps back, looking at this full picture of history and filling in those gaps of missing stories and contributions. We acknowledge that American history, specifically with the African American community, cannot be fully told and accurately told if we don't also discuss the hardships that folks encounter within this community and in this sector. I'm sorry, I'm also moderating, so I'll occasionally turn off my video to let folks in. So I appreciate you all joining us today to be a part of this discussion because it's so important. And yeah, today we're going to be discussing this idea of trying to be a rainbow in someone's cloud, which is a quote, a statement that was made famous by Miss Maya Angelou. And I'm actually going to play the video where this quote comes from, because I think that it will really provide everyone with some context as to why this conversation is so important. So I'm going to play the video and then we'll come back and introduce the lovely panelists that we have. But yeah, let me figure out this Apple phone that I just got that I have no idea how to use. And we can get started with that. All right, share that screen. Beautiful. All right, I think I'm doing things. Can we see a screen? Oh, that's so great. Okay, this is good. Excellent. I'm so proud of myself, y'all. All right.
There's an African American song, 19th century, which is so great. It says, when it looked like the sun wasn't gonna shine anymore, God put a rainbow in the clouds. Imagine. And I've had so many rainbows in my clouds. I had a lot of clouds, but I have had so many rainbows. And one of the things I do when I step up on a stage, when I stand up to translate, when I go to teach my classes, when I go to direct a movie, I bring everyone who has ever been kind to me with me. Black, white, Asian, Spanish-speaking, Native American, gay, straight, everybody. I say, come with me. I'm going on the stage. Come with me, I need you now. Long dead, you see? So I don't ever feel I have no help. I've had rainbows in my clouds. And the thing to do, it seems to me, is to prepare yourself so that you can be a rainbow in somebody else's cloud. Somebody who may not look like you, may not call God the same name you call God, if they call God at all. You see? And may not eat the same dishes prepared the way you do, may not dance your dances or speak your language, but be a blessing to somebody. That's what I think.
All right. Funny enough, I just realized this is from Oprah's masterclass. Look at that. So yeah, I love Maya Angelou as well. Beautiful, beautiful soul. And it's a quote that my grandma used to say to me all the time, and it resonates with me so much. But I'm really, really excited that you all are here to share your stories in regards to this topic. So I would love to start by having each of you introduce yourself very briefly. Tell us who you are, tell us what you do for a living, and you know, what maybe a side hustle you have, what inspires you. And I'd love to start with Sherry if we can.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes, I hope so.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm Sherry Bradley. I live in Chicago, Illinois. I have been bartending for about maybe a little over 20 years. I started a private bartending service about 19 years ago. Just started bartending as a supplemental income. I was a single parent and I always needed some extra money. So I started bartending at a Italian spot and then realized that it was something that I could do, pretty much on my own. I knew a lot of people that gave parties at their homes. So I started spirits bartending services and I started doing private events. I still do it now. Of course, COVID has stopped everything and everyone. So obviously, I haven't had any business in the last year with it, but I do intend to still continue on with it. I also manage a small neighborhood bar in Chicago South Loop neighborhood, and we've been closed since March 14th, 15th of last year. So hopefully, we will be looking to open. Will be right around the year mark of us having been closed for a year, but we've got some wonderful renovations that we've done in the bar and just a lot of upgrades. So looking forward to being back there and kind of, getting back into the groove of thing. I do feel kind of out of sorts because I haven't really been behind the bar. Behind the bar, I've done maybe one or two, maybe three top private events since COVID has hit since last year, but nothing really consistent or regular. So my side hustle, I actually picked this side hustle up a few years ago, and it's been kind of consistent since the pandemic, and since I make edibles. So I love to bake, I love to cook. It's kind of like a therapy for me. It kind of makes me feel like I'm escaping. So I combine that with THC and I create yummy edibles. So that's one of my side hustles. And then my most recent field of work that I'm just going to claim is writing. I've been wanting to write for several years. Both my mom and I have got some work of my mom that I want to publish. I've got some of my stuff that I want to publish. And we have a series of children's books that we've been working on. So I just today sent two of them off to for copyright. So the hardest thing for me is just pushing myself and staying motivated and staying focused, battling all those doubts of stepping into a field that I know absolutely nothing about and don't know whether or not it's going to be successful or beneficial. So just proud that I've gotten to that point. I know it's a long road and a long way to go with lots of different avenues, but I'm really looking forward to kind of seeing what the role has for me and where I can grow it. I kind of see this being I guess my legacy dynasty that I leave, since I'm not going to be able to sling drinks forever. But also something that I can do in my villa on the coast somewhere or in Mexico, sitting up on my balcony with my laptop writing while I'm watching Lonnie down on the beach. So that's kind of my short-term, long-term plans with that whole thing. And, maybe picking up a bartending gig here or there.
I love it. That's amazing.
Thank you.
No, thank you for sharing that.
My
All right,
pleasure.
Mr. Torre, you have the floor, sir. Introduce yourself.
What's up? My name is Terry Folks. I'm originally from New York, and I've been in New Orleans for the last 5 years. Industry professional for about 15. But my background before that was in journalism, economic development in the Dominican Republic. Done a bunch of different things. And currently, I am the CEO and founder of a program called Turning Tables. So it's a 12-week program. It's all about equity, sharing the platform, mentorship, wraparound services, sharing resources, and then also giving people trained skill sets and just introducing them to as many people in the industry as much as possible, and building next leaders in the industry and career pathways. And through Turning Tables, I think, recently, obviously, I can train people. Obviously, I have knowledge of spirits. It's led to some consulting work with bars and restaurants, but not only on the bar and restaurant side, but also just making sure that people, when they build restaurants, they have equitable spaces. So being a part of that process with them and, you know, creating equitable spaces, training, making sure that the staff is diverse, all the things that are beautiful and needed and progressive about this industry and much needed. So that's it. That's all I got.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Miss Kayla, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Kayla. I am originally from San Diego, California, and I live in Dallas, Texas now. It was an amazing 70 degrees for all of you who are in. That was kind of shady. That was kind of shady.
That's not nice.
It's literally 5 degrees here. Like,
Listen, sending you warmth, right?
Start with that.
Right. I'll start with that. Sorry. Okay. But no, I'm really excited to be here. So I have lots of different interests in things going on. I co-own an amazing subscription service with Denise, who is also on the panel, called Betterness Box. And we serve Black women, and we really are creating a space for Black women to come to rest. And so when it comes to their wellness and how to take care of themselves, we are truly, truly, really one of the only woman-owned, Black-owned brands who is doing this subscription type service and creating a community that is truly inclusive and sacred for Black women. And so super, super excited and grateful and humbled to be in position to provide that service. I also am a supervisor or engineer manager at Verizon. So I have my whole career there. And then I also am very, very passionate about community organizing. So I do a lot of different things with the Urban League, even the NAACP, or, you know, different campaigns and things like that. So I spend a lot of my time doing that, and just kind of hanging out with friends and doing all of this other thing, you know, stuff that we do in with Betterness Box. So again, I'm excited to be here, excited about the panel. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. All right, and we have Denise next.
all right. Hey everybody, I am Denise. Denise Gilmore McPherson, the longest name on the panel probably, because it is what it is. But I'm originally from Northern California, from the Bay Area. Currently reside in Chicago. So hey Sherry, me and Rabbi were like, how do we not know her? She's a bartender in Chicago. Like, we should totally know you. Anyhow, so maybe we do. Maybe we have met. We just
Yeah.
So my day job is, I'll go in order: day job, business, and then side hustle. So my day job is I'm director of business development at a company called Sitter City. It's essentially a child care platform that's owned by Bright Horizons. And I, as in my role as business development, I essentially manage and run and execute and filter out any strategic partnerships, new revenue opportunities, growth opportunities, and things of that sort. My business is I co-own Betterness Box with my dear friend Kayla. But I think she provided a lot of just background on what we do. I like to look at it as one part subscription box, one part book club, one part community. And really, like Kayla said, the intention is really to help Black women prioritize our self-care, one box and one day at a time. And it's really creating the habit of self-care and making self-care a lifestyle. And then my side hustle is I'm a recently registered and certified yoga instructor. So that is my new venture that I'm trying to, you know, figure out how I want to incorporate it into the different things that I do, and how I want to let that kind of live and breathe on its own as well. So that's me. Really excited to be here, excited to learn a little bit more about everybody, and thanks everybody who showed up today.
Aw, Kayla is your cheerleader. I love it. That's amazing. Congratulations. I know that takes a lot of work, so congrats.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Solomon.
Hey, buddy. Hi, family. My name is Solomon, but pretty much everyone calls me Sol or Sol or Sal, or any variation of that is fine. My parents called me all different names when I was a kid, but I go by Sol to most people. I'm originally from Newark, New Jersey, Brick City, born and raised, but I live and work in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I moved here recently-ish, 2016, to open up a restaurant that I was a part of in New Jersey that would try to test its franchisability here. It's basically a gourmet, globally inspired hot dog and sausage restaurant that had a really full bar program with cocktails and beer, casual environment, like set up to be an amazing industry spot, late night food and drinks, and just a chill atmosphere with the game room. And, something for everybody. We were saying yes more than no, but unfortunately, the pandemic has forced us to close and definitely our location due to some unfortunate agreements with the landlords. But my work has brought me a lot of wonderful karma in my life and opportunity. Since I've moved to Philadelphia, I really seized the chance to be more involved in our hospitality community here in Philadelphia. So I'm currently also the chairman of the board of directors, and now also, as of today's meeting, president of the chapter of Philadelphia as well here, the USBG. So I am trying to really revamp our mold of that progress of that institution in Philadelphia and really make our chapter shine out, because I think Philly has a lot of uniqueness and a lot of grit that we could help mentor the young people who are in our industry in this city in a new way that isn't just directly tied to what we can learn from brands, and more about actually establishing community for ourselves across our diverse atmosphere here and connecting to other chapters across the country as well. And my business has been this really hospitality, the business of giving and sharing what I do and what I'm passionate about. Before I changed to this, I was studying cell biology and neuroscience with the plan of being a neuroanesthesiologist as a doctor. So total 180, but I'm a much happier person doing what I do now. It's all I ever cared to study, but I realized it wasn't gonna be my career. So I'm happy in this space. And I see some familiar faces here that I'm happy to see as well. In terms of side hustle going, I'm similar to the aspects that Sherry talked about. I, being a hospitality person before I even started working in the actual industry, grew up in a household that was always hosting events for our family and friends. So my start started on the culinary side, next to my dad at knee height, learning to cook and enjoying that, and learning from my mom how to host. So I've always been a fan of like putting people together with good food and good drink. And I've realized kind of it fell into space for me to be a profession. So I now tie in a lot of the culinary aspect that I have in my background into the beverage aspect. So I frequently use ingredients from friends, locals, organic farms in my cocktails, anything like a ratatouille infused syrup to working with them to create CSAs, community support agriculture, that are available to bartenders, people in the industry here in Philadelphia. And that's been a really wonderful thing, really wonderful pivot for that small company as well. And on the writing side, I also have been working on a book, which is more or less the bartender's guide to being a guest, and has kind of evolved into an aspect of understanding how to be a part of that duality relationship. It takes two to tango and most binary things, but we're talking about how we can give a guest the best experience, how they can get the best thing. It's really a cooperation, an aspect of that. So it kind of brings in more than just what it means to walk into a place, and understanding what you're bringing with you and how you can get the most out of that and really enrich your experience and create a superlative moment for yourself beyond the drink, really making a memory for people. So on that aspect, I'm writing, and also I'm trying to get my parents, who recently retired, to discuss and monetize their experience of bringing 3 young Black boys from the inner city to boarding school and college, which I think is a wonderful perspective. My dad recently retired, and as of 2 days ago, got his kidney transplant. So he's at home resting and convalescing. So family's thrilled about that. We're happy for their new mobility, and I'm trying to let him chill a little bit, but also get going so that they can really enjoy their time and have some money to do what they want to do in their twilight phase of life. Yeah, so that's basically my life. I've gotten some opportunities to, because of the work I've done in Philadelphia, to open up programs here in Philly. So I'm consulting for about 3 different restaurants right now on their bar programs, and expanding from what they used to be and revamping that. But trying to be a jack of all trades within this thing, and be just a person who people can look to for mentorship here in Philly for what we do and what we love to do. That's it.
That's awesome. I love that. Amazing. Thanks for sharing. And then Miss Janae, tell us who you are.
Last, okay. I thought there was like one more person before me. Well, hello, I'm Janae. I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I have been bartending for 8 years, or I bartended for 8 years, seeing that I only bartend at home now. My last place of employment before COVID quarantine was at Bakery Bar in New Orleans, a cake and cocktail bar, which I loved, but unfortunately had to leave. I moved to Georgia to live with my family after I lost my job. Since then, I have started a blog. I blog about tech accessories and productivity. That's my passion, is figuring out how to, become the most productive person in the world and share that information with other people. So that's what I do. I have a blog where I write blog articles on things, and I also have an accompanying YouTube channel where I film myself doing all sorts of things, from organizing to reviewing tech products, all kinds of things, and I really enjoy it. That actually led me to teaching a couple of classes on how to start a blog and YouTube channel. So, I was really surprised that it happened, but me trying to, starting this blog to kind of not only find a creative outlet, but also another source of income actually created more income for me. So that was nice. Then I started doing the TikTok thing. So I make cocktails or a cocktail TikTok, which has become kind of popular, I guess. But I basically make classic cocktails on TikTok. They're not very popular on TikTok, but people on Instagram love them. And, the kind of like the combination of me doing, my blog and YouTube and being on TikTok, just me, involving myself in the digital space actually led to me getting my current job, which is managing the social channels for Lush Life Productions, which does Camp Run Amok, Portland Cocktail Week, and some other things. So that is what I do now, along with my TikTok video. So yeah, pretty much my story.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so I promised there was a point to all of you introducing yourselves. It leads into the next question very beautifully. So I want you all to think about your side hustles or your main hustle, and they all have something in common. A word that Sol used earlier is duality, right? So you're getting something out of the experience, but you're also giving something out of the experience. So, I'm writing notes, but I see things like community service, creating more equitable spaces, creating a blog that has, information that people can utilize, CSAs for the community. And these are all things that are amazing and great. So I wonder, for each of you, what made you decide for these specific areas to tackle these subjects, right? Maybe it's just the one thing that resonates with you the most, but I really would love to know what, out of all the things to get involved with, why that one thing? So let's.
You want us to just go, or you want to?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, I was about to say I can just go first. So in terms of why I started making cocktail videos on TikTok, very good story. So I had this idea like way before COVID even hit. Like, man, like I would love to work at a club and just like get paid to just dance and make cocktails. Not like, not like strip and make cocktails, but just, dance to music and make cocktails. So I talked to, I was working at Compare LaPont. I forgot to mention Compare LaPont. That's another place I was working at before COVID hit in the French Quarter. And I was telling my coworkers, but yeah, I just want to like make videos of myself dancing to like popular music, making cocktails. I think that'd be really cool. And I remember them looking at me like I was crazy, right? But I still had this idea. I was like, you know what? This time, nobody's gonna talk me out of doing it. So I created my first TikTok in May, and it literally like blew up. Like people were like, "Oh my god, this is amazing! I watched this 1,000 times." I was like, "Okay, so I'm not crazy. People actually would like this content." But the reasoning for me doing it was not only because I felt like when we're in bar spaces as professionals or cocktail professionals, we don't always get to be ourselves. Especially in the places that I have worked at in the past, I've kind of had to put that mask on. You kind of have to enunciate when you talk.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Your sound's going in and out just a little bit.
Hold on, let me take this out. Can you hear me better?
Yes, way better. Thank
Okay,
you.
perfect. I just had to take the headphones out. I'm sorry. But what was I saying? Yeah, so I really wanted kind of a way to infuse my culture, or what I my true self rather than the self that I presented at work into what I was doing, because I was passionate about cocktails, but I was also passionate about being Black and also education. So I knew that I wanted to make cocktail videos, but I didn't want to just make them for myself. I know that, cocktail education isn't very prevalent in the Black community. So I thought by combining, trap music, just hip hop and R&B with classic cocktails, I could probably open some eyes, hopefully somebody will learn something. And not only did I do that, I was actually helping, Black bar professionals, people commenting on my videos saying, I didn't even know this was a thing. Like, you made this cocktail. It's super simple. How did I not know about it? Right. And it's because that information is not readily available in the Black community or the Black bar community, as Torre probably knows already, from working with, the Black bar community in New Orleans. So that's what, was my kind of like reasoning for doing what I did, is because I wanted to educate my people. And I knew that by, infusing cocktails or classic cocktail knowledge with trap music, that was going to attract them. And it was also going to elevate their knowledge base when it came to cocktails. So that's my reason.
You literally, I was feeding it and you said exactly what I needed you to say. This is beautiful. So I think the reason why you're here, and one of the things that I love about you, is that you're so authentically yourself, and without realizing it, I really don't think you realize this, but you are making the space a very comfortable one for folks who don't feel that they can be themselves to be a part of, which is a really awesome thing. Additionally, that education you're providing is important because you're going over these classic cocktails. And yes, it's a TikTok video. Yes, it's silly, but you're providing them with a basic understanding of what this is and how to make it, which is awesome. And this actually segues nicely into Touré and what he's doing, creating equitable spaces, creating spaces for individuals. Actually, you can talk about it way better than I can. Touré, what part of what you just said to us really resonates with you, and what is the reason why you wanted to get involved in it?
Well, a number of different things, like Janae said, Janae was one of the mentors in the program, and I think one of the more important things is learning from us. It's not just professionals in the room that are teaching the students; it's also industry bartenders. So they're learning from people that have levels of experience. So seeing someone that looks like you is not a common thing that happens. And when you think about, commonly we'll talk about being the only Black person in the room or the only Black person in spaces. So when all of a sudden you're in this space and it's like a family reunion where it's just like, all of your people around you and you have people teaching you that look like you, it's a revolutionary and amazing thing. I remember one of the first times last year, I got Janae together with some of the other mentors. And as much as we were amped on getting the students together, it was like, this is a beautiful thing that why don't we do this more often with each other? Because, you can only count 6 Black people on your hands, but us getting more together and sharing knowledge and sharing things, Janae nails it. She makes it accessible. It's really easy. She speaks in a language that is not condescending or anything else. It's just this is even when she teaches my students, it's this is how I make this thing. This is how I've learned from dive bars or this kind of experience. So I know that I'm not the only person that they should be learning from, and I think it's a sum of multiple experiences, and that's going to inform the way that they move forward. They're moving together as a family, and that's a beautiful thing. We came in this alone a lot of the times. The most beautiful thing is not the education. It's not, what they're necessarily learning from other people. It's that they're family. At the end of 12 weeks, they are tight. And not only are they tight, they walk away from that situation everyone's like, who the fuck are these people about to come into the industry and do their thing and go into these spaces? It's just a beautiful thing that I'm looking forward to not only see people bartending, but just also working in distilleries, working for brands. Even if you decide not to go that route, I have some people that want to write and do other things that are industry adjacent. A lot of times in the industry, you have people that's all they know. So that's all that they do. But you have a workforce that's coming in that knows, okay, so all right, this industry goes to shit. I can do this other thing and I can pivot into this other thing. And there's other skill sets that I can use this information for. And that inspires me to do this more than anything.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I want to talk about now or segue into is Betterness Box, because, okay, guys, I couldn't even tell you how much I love what they're doing. It's amazing. So I got a Betterness Box subscription as a Christmas gift from Lindsay Johnson. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I have no idea what this is. Let me look it up. And so I reached out to Kayla and Denise and I was like, hey, I got this as this subscription as a gift. I'd love to chat with you about how we can possibly work together because I think what you're doing is cool. And this is before I received my box. So Denise was like, wait, but you have to get your box first. Like, I know you're excited, but like, wait till you get your box. So I get my box and I open it and I was like, this is truly and literally a great way to, one, create community, two, bring awareness, but three, also like really embracing the culture, you know what I mean? In a way that doesn't like force it down your throat. I have a very different upbringing and like background. I was adopted, my parents are white, like, so as far as like identity, like I didn't really identify with being Black. So this was a really great way for me to be like, oh, this is great. Like, this is a really nice way for me to feel like I'm part of something. I'll let them talk about what they do. But yeah, so I would love for Kayla and Denise to talk about their, you know, the Betterness Box is their side hustle. It's their baby, their project. And I would really love to know what your whole goal behind doing that was.
All right, Kayla, do you want to kick us off and then I'll hop in?
Sure. Tag team. I'm in. Okay. So it's funny, Janae, that you mentioned YouTube and blogging. So that's kind of how I had this initial interest. I do have a YouTube channel called The KG Lifestyle, and I teach, you know, different things when it comes to natural hair and beauty and wellness, etc. And so after doing that for a while, of course, I wanted to have a deeper connection with my followers and subscribers. And so Denise reached out to me, or we somehow got together and we're like, hey, and again, this is my line sister. Denise is my line sister. So she's like my sister. So it's not odd that she reached out to me, but she was like, we need to figure this out. And so we came together and said, okay, what would this look like? Because we really didn't have too much of an idea. We just knew that it would be centered around self-care, right? And which areas, we decided on fitness, beauty, wellness, and then what would it look like? But the real premise behind it was really solving a problem that we had, which was consistency, and really breaking the addiction to perfectionism, right? To thinking, oh gosh, we're trying to be perfect here, and that is not helping us. And I think a lot of Black women have that kind of perspective when it comes to their self-care and natural, not their natural health, but just in general, their wellness journeys, right? When they fall off the wagon, it's really tough to get back up on there. And so I think for us, it was creating a product, creating a service, creating a ecosystem really that really helped to cultivate that consistency for ourselves first, right? So selfishly, it was kind of for us, and then to offer it for sure out to the world, right? These Black women that we knew in our community that needed this consistency as well. And so, it's very similar to most businesses, right? It was birthed out of a need that we actually had ourselves. I'll let Denise take it from there. Tag.
No, so I appreciate, I like Kayla telling the history of what we do because she does it so well. But I think that the inspired question is one that, like, being that we are of the community that we are creating for, we continue to get inspired literally on a daily basis. I don't think you guys want to understand and know how frequently Kayla and I are in, like, I'm in Chicago, she's in Dallas, and this is the person that I probably talk to the most out of all of my life, because like we literally are living and breathing the product, right? Because we are creating something that's based off of our real life experience and life, right? And as Kayla shared, it's something that we're consistently creating for ourselves. So like while we go through our own self-care process as individuals, we collectively come together and then discuss that and keep each other honest in that, and then create from that space as well. And so that to me is, in addition to the testimonials that we see, the feedback that we see, the support that we see, we call it happy mail, whenever we get like a text message a DM, a actual email from anybody who has actually like received a box or come to an actual event. That also continues to keep us going because it lets us know that we're on the right path, right? And that people are getting value out of it. Yeah, but I think the premise of why we started it was really to that habit forming behavior and helping people become consistent with it. Understanding that self-care is not one massage, right? Like I can go get a massage today and then like tomorrow my world could go to shit. But you know what I mean? It's not just like one thing. You have to really build the muscle for self-care, and that requires those consistent touch points and like forming that habit. So
I think we've been blessed as well to understand and take the time to truly research, right? Why the history of wellness for Black women, right, in America, and understanding where are we falling short? Why is there so many disparities when it comes to Black women, the Black mortality birth rate, right? Like what is going on, and how can we actually try to attack some of these things directly or indirectly with just making people understand what it is that they need to do to take care of themselves, why they perhaps have habits of not taking care of themselves, the generational things we had a sister circle yesterday, which was amazing. And it was just a lot of digging. We always have professionals come in. So we had 2 doctors come in, and they just helped us, through this conversation of understanding the origin of where this stuff comes from, what it means to make changes, and realize what you need to do now. And then how can you make sure that you stay consistent with that? That's life-changing for these women, honestly. And this happy mail we get every day, like that is what inspires us, to hear a woman say, as a mother, I was putting myself last and I almost gave up. And now I'm going to keep going because I have a way forward. Like, listen, I was in all tears yesterday after yesterday's sister circle. Like, this is why this was created, and to have manifested that and seen this come to fruition is just, it blows my mind. Again, we're just honored to even be in the place to do this work.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that so much. And again, like if I'm not endorsing their product enough, I love it. So Sherry, I want to ask you, when I first met you, and I still think this of you as well, is like you are always giving, you're a champion. I feel like you're like God, mom, big sis, and it's very natural for you, right? And so when I hear that you're writing it excites me, because I want to know what inspires you, I guess, in regards to that, if you're willing to share.
Yeah, I will. I can also share how I am on myself every day to be consistent with it. For me, right now, what's inspiring me is my image of what I see the books becoming. I have the whole merchandising down to the lunchbox and the stuffed animals and the socks and everything. So, and it's from a true life experience. I'll tell you a little history about the book. It's about it happened. I'm sorry, I'm side hustling as we talk. It's about a few years back. I had a mouse in my apartment, and my mother and my son were here, and they helped me catch the mouse. Hold on. So my mother actually started the book, and then she started back in 2011. And then I was hospitalized in 2015. And when I got out of the hospital, she was like, hey, you remember a few years ago when you had that mouse in your house? And I was like, yeah. She was like, well, I wrote a book about him. And I'm like, what? So she reads me the book. It's hilarious. And I think it's hilarious to me because as I'm reading through it, I can remember everything as it happened, the way she adapted it to the book. So I kind of took it from there and finished it up. And then I did the second volume is the mouse. We didn't catch the mouse that night. And then the second volume is, his name is Gerald. The second volume is Gerald Dresses Up, and it's about his adventures in my room, which is where he ran after we found him in the kitchen. So those are the first 2 books that I have off to the copyright office. And as I read through them, I given myself a goal to have them sent out by the end of January, and I missed it because I was going through the whole, it's not good enough, am I gonna really follow through with it, and all the what ifs and what ifs, and what if not, you never know what's gonna happen unless you get out there and do it, and it's either gonna
Yeah.
work or it's not gonna work. So, you have nothing to lose by trying. So I finally got them out. And just as I read through them, I get really excited about what the potential of them is to be.
Yeah.
And then that's, what's kind of motivating me to go on to the third volume, which is Gerald Goes to the Gym.
Oh,
And then the fourth and final installment will be Gerald's Family Reunion, because we figured if it's a children's book, we don't really want to kill anything off, even if it is the mouse, and we did kill him in the house. But we want him to kind of live on so that kids will kind of grow with him and, not kill him off. So the family reunion is where he'll make it back with his family. But it's really funny. And once I get, the copywriting stuff back, then I'll go through the process of looking for an illustrator. And I actually want to, I'll need to dig into some of the insight from Janae and Kaylin, those guys who have a YouTube channel and do those blogs and things like that, because what I'd like to do is kind of do a reading of it on YouTube and just kind of see how how it goes, the reception of, how it goes. And then hopefully by the time those two are kind of out and getting some rave reviews, some publishing company will, hook me up and want to sponsor the third and fourth one and contract me to do a bunch of other stuff. But I guess what started me to writing is my mom wrote a book about just her life early on. And she's had it and sat on it for at least 30 or more years.
oh,
So
wow.
I have that, and I'd like to kind of, I guess, go around, and I don't know if I want to do it just as she wrote it or add my own inserts in it. I guess everybody thinks that their mom is really fascinating, has a great story, so I'm no exception to that. And since she already kind of has it down on paper, again, why not? So, but I think for now, what inspires me with the writing is the possibility of what it could be. And
Yeah.
I come from the whole, nobody owes you anything, and nothing comes for free. Anything worth having is worth working for, and anything worth doing is worth doing well. So, I'm kind of excited about this new journey. I still love bartending and will still do it, but
Yeah.
I think the passionate side of it for me is kind of taking a turn into me wanting to do something different. And then, hopefully from there, my thought process, what I want to do is kind of build this dynasty for Kalani so that she can navigate her own way and
Well,
navigate her own road.
she's the little person who inspires you.
She is. She says something really, really funny every day. And I take a lot of videos of her, and I have an IG page, and I keep, I want to do, I don't want her to be one of those kids who's drowning in social media and always on her phone, but I want her to, I look at all these little kids getting paid from being on social media, and she's watching all their YouTube channels. And I'm like, baby, you just as cute as them. You can get paid and we can get you a YouTube channel. So I'm kind of trying to build her brand in the process. But she says something funny every single day. She's so advanced to be 3. She'll be 4 in a couple of weeks. So I think my next series of children's book will be about this, little adventurous girl. And it'll be a lot of reality based because she really keeps me on my toes, honest to God.
Yeah.
Oh my
I love
God.
this of you too. You're creating really amazing memories for her, and it's
Yeah.
really
Yeah. I started writing her letters, and I'm really bad with journaling, so I don't write them every day, but I'm getting a few in a month. And I figure years from now, I don't know, I'll give them to her when she's 16, 18, but it will be something really interesting for her to kind of read through and just kind of have those memories. But um, she's my inspiration for wanting to be successful, because I don't want her to ever want for anything. And I don't want her to have to go the path that I had to go. It took me a while to get to bartending and working for myself. I worked retail for 24 years before that. And I really don't want her to have to rely on any kind of industry where somebody else is dictating your path and your success and your flow and your future and all of that. So I don't think she's going to be contained in that kind of atmosphere
Yeah,
anyway, because she's a live wire, that's for sure.
I love that. It's beautiful. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And then
Thank you.
Saul, I want I want to talk about community investment because I know you invest a lot of time in giving back to your community, and a USBG is relatively new for you, right? Am I saying that?
Totally new, yeah. I mean, I when I started in the industry, like as an employee in New Jersey, I wasn't involved in any like national or anything outside of just that town I was in, and was really focusing on just kind of keeping my head low and learning how to be in it and mix with people, and then realized I had some natural knack for it and wanted to do more, but saw that New Jersey with its, how should I say this? Constantly shifting like tectonic plate sort of nature atmosphere like wasn't necessarily a place that was going to be stable for me, so I needed to shift. Pivot is the word of the 2 years probably, and so Philadelphia presented itself as an opportunity for me. What was kind of serendipitous because it brought me full circle, because I started when I first started doing things in our industry. I started, like I said, my friend's private catering business in Philadelphia, and the strength of that volunteer work that I did with this guy, my friend, who now became a full-fledged farmer, like that work got me that job in the first place. So to move back to Philadelphia and be closer to where I started, even though I wasn't living here, was kind of like an interesting kind of like sign, like, big billboard on the side of the road in my life I had to pay attention to. Um, Once I got to Philadelphia, I realized immediately how true the city of brotherly love really is. I mean, I've been to a few major cities in this country, and met cool people from everywhere. People who you go to a bar and they're like, "Oh yeah, what you're doing? Where you from? Like, you got to go to this bar, you got to that bar." Philadelphia is another level. Philadelphia, they'll make you take their number down and they'll meet you at that bar with them. So they won't tell you where to go. They'll meet you at that place. They're like, "We're going together. Forget like showing you. I'll take you with me." So it's like really like that vibe. It's like we want to share this moment together, and that fell right in line with my personal beliefs and my personal action of like wanting to share moments, and really that tied into what kind of naturally became this book idea, of like, thinking about the questions we're given and accessing vulnerability and accessibility and living in the moment, like being here now, like be here now, like those three words as a total concept, honoring the past and looking to the future, but not dwelling on so much that we were ready to take the gift of the present. And the community that was here was kind of fractured in some degree. Philadelphia is full of small little neighborhoods that are cool and everyone has their vibe, but they're near each other geographically and they're connected in that there isn't any beef, but there isn't like a bond. More
Yeah.
so that other than that, we all agree that people like to shit on Philadelphia and we don't take that crap. But I've got that like 3 times over being from Jersey. Jersey gets so much crap from being next to New York City, and Newark being next to New York as well. It's like I was used to that vibe and I kind of fit in naturally here in the community here. So it was just double Dutch easy for me to do, to pivot to go over there. And now that I'm here and now that I'm able to give back and be involved, like I'm seeing that the response from people who wanted to do it for a while, who didn't really just have the gumption to. And it's not about being like a king or queen of any hill as a leader, but I just wanted to show people that they could do this. And it really, for me, wasn't necessarily about race or about being a Black bartender. Yes, it does help that my name is atypical and I have a unique look because there's zero dreaded Black bar managers in the city, male. So I stick out, and there's so many Mikes and Chris and Johns out there. So like, who will know who I am? So it was just kind of cool, and I was able to fit into that without pretension. This community has a lot to grow and a lot to bring itself up into like the present and forefront of what we do. Cocktails have existed in this city forever, and it's one of the oldest cities in our country. Yet the cocktail scene is in its adolescence, I would say. So I felt the need to kind of like show these brands and these in our larger community that like Philadelphia isn't something to skip over between New York and DC. I love those places, I love other cities around our country, but we were often ignored because we kind of like stuck to ourselves. We were a beer driven city and we had community, but it was like, it was just on holidays. It wasn't, or over sports. It wasn't just a natural sense of like I got you, you know, and I wanted to show people that we did have it once you got here. It wasn't
sure.
just a place to get a cheesesteak. So it's been nice doing that and like feeling the response and like being built up from my peers and from people who look up to me, who know my name without me knowing them. Not people who just follow me on social media, but who are involved and come into my bar or get to create experiences for across the bar, which I hope to get back to someday soon. I know we all miss that. But yeah, it's been great. It's been great
I
doing
love
that.
that. No, thank you for sharing that. So, okay, I promise I have a point to all of this. This is also important. So, you all exude so much passion when you speak about what inspires you. So, what I want to do now is relate back to what the overall theme of this conversation is, being a rainbow in someone else's cloud. So, let's each think of a hardship or difficulty we've encountered it within our industry, within our passion, within our side hustle, that we either had to be a rainbow to someone else's cloud in, right? Or that somebody was a rainbow in our cloud. And a pivotal moment. I think what's so interesting and so important is that those moments that we encounter, those difficulties, do have lessons, right? And they provide us with an opportunity to make and implement change. You're all obviously still doing what you're doing because you love it, but I know that you have had some bumps along the road. So I think providing the folks watching with a little bit of inspiration will be really, really powerful. So I would love if anyone who has something to just start, and then we can go through everyone, and we'll end with that question.
I'll go first. And mine is one that you know about. It's something I started doing when I started managing the bar, the 16th Street Bar, Bureau Bar back then. But I started doing the Bartender Spotlight, which was a platform where I would bring in independent contractors, bartenders. Like I knew a lot of people that had services like myself, and I would bring them in and they would do a bartender spotlight. They would create their own menu, and that would be kind of like their bar for the night. And I think initially what prompted me to do that was after in 2015 when I started bartending full time. I would, apply at some of the, bigger bars or some of the more well-known places and would get little to no feedback or responses or anything. And at that point I was just like, I'm not in the mood to feel like I'm begging anybody to give me something or teach me something or do something. So I came across a friend, Kenny Johnson, who actually owned the bar. And he was cool enough to let me come in and kind of work at my own pace and do what I wanted to do. I eventually started managing, but he was really cool with letting me bring in different ideas and do different things. He doesn't drink and wasn't really into the industry in that way, other than it being a business opportunity. So he really was open to me bringing in the whole cocktailing and mixologist, the world into the bar. And I think it was great for me because I kind of could do my own thing without the whole bar ownership. Um, the everything that goes along with bar ownership. But then I could also introduce a lot of Black bartenders to the city that either weren't working at a bar or just weren't getting the recognition that they wanted and needed. So Lauren, I know you came and did a spotlight, which is wonderful. Josh actually did a spotlight, and then he subsequently started working at the bar with me. Lisa Brown did a spotlight. Just about everybody here in the city. We've had some people come out, from outside of the city to do spotlights, but I'm glad to have had that opportunity to just kind of give people, a foot outside of their norm, or if they were just doing mobile parties, to kind of give themselves a platform and a customer base. And once we open, I do still want to continue to have that opportunity available for bartenders who kind of want to focus what they do and they don't have a home bar, but want to still make a dent in the industry and have some meaning. So.
I love that. Yeah, that was a great time. That was actually around the time where I was just like really getting my cocktail start.
Yeah, you a master class in it. A master, what's not master class? You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
It was great. An amazing experience. So thank you for allowing me to do that. That was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyone else have a story?
I can go. So I don't necessarily have a specific story, but I actually think that when I thought about this, like in preparation for today, I kind of was thinking about like how Betterness Box, what we've created, is essentially a service or product that allows women to show up and be their own rainbow at times. And so that really like inspires us like to keep going. I think that Kayla and I are probably each other's rainbows at times when the other one's the cloud. That's a daily process again. And like I said, I think for me, the lesson in leading with kindness is also leading with grace. I think that for me, I think we're like, all people are like really, really hard on themselves, right? So if you give yourself grace, if you give your business partner grace, if you give your customer grace, if you give the community that you're serving grace, you start to get out of a place of guilt or blame or, you know, just like shame of things, or like the need to be perfect. And you really start to get to a place of compassion and questioning and understanding, and forgiveness that really allows you to get into that place of like moving things along. And it's more of an action, a place of action when you're operating with grace versus like operating with guilt. So that to me, like when I was like thinking about this, like the leading with grace and not guilt, when dealing with yourself, when dealing with your business partner, when dealing with the communities that you're serving and your customers, it just puts, for me, it puts me in a like a more vulnerable mindset to where I can empathize with who I'm dealing with a little bit more, and like empathizing with myself even, right? To get to a place where I can then say like, oh, okay, like I'm not thinking about why this happened or how this happened. I need to understand that like, Denise, you're not always going to be perfect. You might not always have the answer. You might not always know what this person needs or this community needs. But if I'm operating from a place of like, okay, let me assume that they're showing up and you know, with their best interest, and I'm showing up with my best interest, it just moves the conversations along a little bit quicker, and you're able to get to a place of action a little bit more.
Yeah.
So that to me is kind of like the lesson that I thought of, that like I think is true in how Kayla and I operate. As Kayla shared, we are line sisters, so we've known each other for 15 plus years, which definitely helps in having her as a business partner, right? Because like there's already a rapport there, there's already certain levels of like respect, there's already certain things in place, morals and standards that are common, that even were there before, like we were friends first, right? That really have helped to establish some of that. But I think the grace, having grace in our relationship, in establishing this business, allows us to look at Black women as for the humans that we are, right? Like, and not just assume, like if we were not of the community and creating a product for Black women, we could assume and believe all of the things that the world actually says about Black women, which as we all know are not necessarily positive, right? But being from the community, creating for the community that you're a part of, and having and leading with that grace, you just are in a position to where you can think about the problems a little bit differently and come up with those solutions and opportunities from a place of just like compassion.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Who would like to go next?
I'll go next. I think when I think about, you know, being a rainbow in somebody else's cloud or somebody being a rainbow in my cloud, I think the closest person to me would be my daughter, who I haven't mentioned yet. I am a mother to an almost 2-year-old. And that kind of, you know, it's difficult. I'm not even gonna lie. It's hard, and it's hard as shit to be, because I'm a single mother. You know, after I lost my job during COVID, I moved in, you know, with my family, and by the grace of God, I'm employed living at home, you know, because daycare is not cheap. And it was a fear that I always had. You know, I was producing content I started this blog. I started to make a little money off of that in YouTube, but it wasn't really paying my bills. It was paying a bill, and at some point I was going to need to get a job. I was doing speaking engagements, things like that, but I was, my financial reserve was dwindling, and at some point I was going to have to figure something out. And luckily I was able, I was offered a position that lets me stay at home. But in terms of being a rainbow in somebody's cloud, I always have to be a rainbow in my daughter's cloud. Like I can't let my situation affect her. And that's something that really, I really struggle with every day, because it's like, when I wake up, I have a choice. I can either, be that person who's upset about, not having time to work on, to do actual work because I had to spend an extra couple of hours putting my daughter to sleep, or, something else happened, or I can be, I can be positive and be, be the person that I want to be. Pretty much, I feel like every day it's a fight between the person I am now and the person that I aspire to be. Like there's always that person in the back of my head, like, bitch, get up. Like, you need to do what you got to do, because someone is watching you, and you need to be, you need to act like you like it. You need to be that example. And I think that's been my real driving force. And that's kids changed your life, or change your life. And that's I knew when I had a kid, it was game over. I was done playing games, with my future. Like I need to be the change that I need her to see in the world. We're supposed to lead by example. So every day I have to be that rainbow in her, in her cloud. And it's not always, it doesn't always work out. Like, so I have bad days, there's days where I just can't function, but I always make sure that I'm better the next day for my daughter. There's no days off. There's no parenting days off. So there's no day that I can't, at least try to be the best parent there is. And in order to be the best parent there is, I have to be the best person, or, my best self every day. So that's, I guess that's my kind of, being a rainbow in somebody else's cloud.
No, it's a great perspective. Everyone is coming up with like such different points. So thank you for sharing that. It's really important. Anyone else?
Yeah, I was just gonna say to applaud you, Janae, for really showing up in that way. I think that's beautiful. It reminds me, honestly, of some of the. You're welcome. It reminds me of some of the conversations that we had yesterday at our Betterness Box Sister Circle, and how again we realized I remember one of the women, and I'm sure she wouldn't mind me sharing this because it's very applicable to a lot of our situations where our mothers didn't show us how they struggled. And so we think we're supposed to be at this like all the time, right? Operating at this high level all the time. And so I just applaud you for knowing that every day isn't perfect. Every day is not going to work out. Some days, you may be a little cloudier rainbow than others, but I think it's beautiful that you still strive for that. And again, I applaud you for showing your daughter that not every day is perfect. Not every day is going to work out. So I want to also pivot and just kind of piggyback off of what Denise was saying when she talked about grace in general. And I think about so many Black women starting these businesses, right? There's been a spike for like the last 10 years, I think. But a lot of Black women are starting businesses, and the statistics are really interesting around the ones that sustain. And a lot of these businesses that are being created do not end up sustaining. You look them up a year, 2 years, 3 years from the time they were created, and they're just not there anymore. And that's because of so many different things, including systemic racism, et cetera, right? Not us being funded as businesses and stuff. And so I think when it comes to the struggle of like being a creator, being an owner, and in this space, it's really important for us to find community of like-minded people, so that we know we're not alone, especially in this like virtual pandemics. We are all social distancing and sheltering in place. we can feel so much so in our silos and isolated. I think it's even more important for us to stay intentional about saying, okay, who is it that's in this space with me? Who's walking this walk with me? So that we can always continue to be each other's rainbows, whether that's, today I'm going to be somebody's rainbow because I got some motivation from a podcast. I'm going to send that to somebody, or somebody ends up sending an article to you on one day because you needed a rainbow. So I think that's one thing that is somewhat missing a lot of the time when it comes to this space, people being intentional about creating that safe space, when it comes to business or whatever field they're in. I would encourage anyone who's looking for rainbows and encouragement to think about that. And you'll hear the stories that really do help tie the work into how you feel, right? You'll see, oh, I am making a difference. Like whether that's helping someone else with their business or not, you're making a difference doing what it is you were called to do, or what it is you've decided to do. So I think community is definitely one of those things we should consider being more intentional about.
Awesome. No, I think that's a great point. Gosh, you guys are killing it, man. Who would like to go next? Teray.
I think there's a lot of connections to people talking about children and talking about their past experiences, and for me, your past experiences inform where you land. And before I ended up in hospitality, I was working in Dominican Republic with adults, and I crossed paths with teenagers. And at that point, I didn't realize that I was wanting to be a mentor to teenagers. But my biggest connection in that place, where there was a language barrier for me, was that these young people looked up to me. So fast forward to me coming back to the States, coming back home, every time I was in the industry, I still, wanted to volunteer. And then I went to, back home to New York, and I was volunteering in the South Bronx, and, just listening to their stories, being a part of their lives, and just understanding where they were coming from. They couldn't relate to their white teachers that were running the program. They related to me. And so realizing the impact of just being someone that looked like them was important to them started to kind of filter in. But it didn't really sink in until I wanted to change my career path in terms of, I was a career server, bartender, and I was like, let me be a manager. So I came to New Orleans to be a manager at a hotel. And, Black mothers, my mom was like, you got to get suits, you got to look good, you got to walk, so I walked through that place I looked fabulous every time I walked in. If you know me, my laugh is what it is. I'm boisterous. I was very proud to walk through that space, and I didn't think much of it. But I slowly started to realize that I had impact with, New Orleans local people that were in that space, not just youth, but just BIPOC community. And the turning point for me, this is where the story gets sad. I had 2 employees that died within a 24-hour period, and one was murdered in front of his grandparents on his porch, and another one, she died from childbirth. And so when that happened, it was the hardest. It was one of the hardest moments for me to go through as a person, and I never really processed it or was able to deal with it. And I realized everyone came to me as a force to deal with it. And when I realized the impact of what I was doing and how powerful it was for everyone that was in that space, it just made me realize that that this work is important. The impact that you make is important, and nothing is more important than that. And I needed to use my power to become that person for someone else. And the work that I'm doing now with students, I had a student from last year that was displaced. He was, he didn't have a house, and it was most important for him to have this satisfaction of finishing the program more than anything. It wasn't about him becoming a bartender. It was about him having finished something and having impact on something and like finishing something, accomplishing something in his life. And I could go on and on, but like those kinds of stories are most important to me, to realize that like, you know, you don't think you have impact, but like these little things, you know, they do have impact, and like that's what continues and keeps me going every time I think about like why I do this.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. I know, yeah, these experiences are really pivotal and they're important and they change us. Even if we don't realize them in the moment, they do change us. So I really, really appreciate you, sharing that story with us. And yeah, it's so empowering. It makes me think of all the moments that I've had where just, similar situations such as that have happened and occurred. I appreciate you so much. Gosh, you're killing it. You're doing such amazing work. And I know the people who have interactions with you really, truly appreciate it. So thank you. All right. I think we have Saul left.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm listening to everything everyone's saying, and that's like you're gonna hear it now. But I think about this aspect of community and the rainbow against the clouds. And community, in my mind, is inextricably tied to two concepts, which are communication and support. Right. So what community provides for you is that support, that scaffolding, that background for your struggle. When you need something to lean on, someone to speak to, and really what it comes down to is this idea of speaking and listening, no matter what your language is. If it's love, if it's emotion, if it's music, that aspect, that shared connection in the moment. And one thing my mother taught me very long time ago was that I have two ears and one mouth for a reason. And one thing my father taught me is that I could do anything I put my mind to. So from a very early age, I've had the blessing of having two parents who gave me these lessons that I've carried with me everywhere I go. And you can't see underneath these headphones, but I got some big ears. So I like to listen. And it's important to me to do that and to be there in those moments for people. And the idea of being a rainbow against the clouds, this fleeting yet powerful stand of brightness against the turmoil in life, is constantly happening. It's mostly just being able to listen to people around me and like hear them out when they have something to say, not necessarily giving advice, but just being that sounding board for what they're dealing with. They usually get to their truth through themselves, through that reverberation, through that echo of someone just looking at them and being there with them in that moment, even if it's silence. And community does that in the best ways for people when they are in need. Um, and it's something that I've been able to do in so many aspects just by being there and paying attention. And people have been able to lean on me and give me their stories of ways I've helped them, from people who've been dealing with really strongly contemplating taking their own lives, to people who just needed to figure out like what they wanted to eat that night, but were happy for the joy moment to share this discussion with someone when they were missing that connection. And it's real. It's like we are rainbows against the clouds by paying attention to the people who care about us and who we care about and who are strangers in our lives, who are around us. Because no matter our differences, skin color, race, ethnic creed, if we close our eyes, we're still human beings on this one rock together. We share this same space, we share this same air, and the aspect of our cultures that are so pivotal and crucial to who we are, and these aspects of understanding have all happened in such a short period of time for life on this planet. And we have to be there for each other. The moment we start dissolving this concept of us versus them is the moment we become a true community together. So I think by listening, we get closer to that aspect, closer to that wonderful kind of crazy utopia that is constantly fleeting. But if we're working towards it, if we're trying to be there for each other by listening, we can get there. So that's what I try to do. I try and listen to people when they come in to talk to me, when I see them on the bus stop. I mean, I've had such crazy things, man. Like some guy asked me what the time was at the bus, and I was like, yeah, it's this time. He was like, yeah, okay, cool. My son doesn't love me. I'm like, here we go. And it was like, now I'm listening to you. Okay, my bus is late. It's all right. I got some time, you know. Or a guy, or a woman who comes in and just dealing with moving into a new city and doesn't know anyone and needs to feel like she can start to establish her own little network of people. Like, we're here for you. We're here for that. I think what's wonderful about our industry and why I had to get into it once I realized what it could be is that if we're doing our jobs well, we really are being those listeners. We're being that those people who help people get what they need to get out and share the moment and kind of let it go. And thankfully for me, I was also blessed with a brain that doesn't carry with me most depression or anxiety or attention disorder. So I'm able to listen and let whatever stress or thing kind of roll off me like water rolls off a duck's back, and I can keep it moving. So I'm lucky for that. So I try and use that gift and my ability to listen and my big ears to do that job. And that's my rainbow in the cloud moments for me.
Oh, I love that. Gosh, these are all such great perspectives. I think it's important. I mean, the one that resonates with me the most really is being fully present in every interaction, every moment, right? And intentions, while good, can sometimes be harmful. So acknowledging like how my actions really do impact others, to ensure that everything is aligned. It won't always work that way. We're human, right? It could be something as simple as, and this is literally what happened to me yesterday, having to cancel a meeting 30 minutes before because something else came up.
Do we lose her?
Ensuring that,
Oh,
about how my actions affect the other person.
We lost for a second there, but
I think it's a really important conversation to have. And I hope that all of you watching later enjoy it, because I know I have. So I leave you all with this to think of. Consider how you are rainbow in someone else's cloud. And I don't even think that was English. Consider how you are a rainbow in someone else's cloud, and how someone else is a rainbow in your cloud in those moments where you feel a little helpless, or you feel a little lost, or when you acknowledge that someone else feels a similar way, because we do have the power to make a huge impact, especially in regards to the way that the world is right now and all of the very heavy things that we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So thank you everyone for being here, and for being fully present and engaging. I really do appreciate your time, truly.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
it's been wonderful.
thank you.
Oh, this is
I'm gonna get my mom, my two sister-in-laws better box subscriptions. So that sounds dope, actually.
I'm about to get a better
Listen,
Yeah.
here,
text
Denise